So, no surprises for the most important meeting ever until the next one. That's the FOMC meeting with Jerome Powell, and the rates stay steady at 4.25% and 4.5% as a target. So, what I would like to talk about today is what mostly has not been said, and of course, all of the conflicts with the person who is absolutely not happy with this result, which is, of course, Donald Trump. So, let's dive right in. First off, the U.S. inflation, which is one of the mandates, so basically CPI. I tend to look to true-flation because it's really more leading indicators. They track it's a much better data you can work with. It's about 2.04%, so 2.04. So it's hovering around the 2% for a while now. So it does not suggest any specific problems with tariffs. So tariffs are not really inflationary. We talk about that as well, along with CINA. And so they are on a wait and see. Maybe we have those effects. Maybe that changes. Let's also wait and see as well. And also, nothing's too specific about the labor market. It's still steady and still strong, according to him. But the interesting part is the political clash between the two, because we discussed that ad nauseum about the whole narrative on actually ending the Fed, right? So you see clearly that the Treasury is not happy about Jerome Powell. Trump is not happy about Jerome Powell, and we actually discussed that on our latest Bitcoin intelligence report. So here, I mean, when you say end the Fed, be careful what you wish for, because some people may say, look, the Fed is completely unnecessary here. Let's go back to a Bitcoin standard or hard money or whatever. But this might happen, but not in a way we think. So you see a lot of the pressure between Donald Trump. So we call it the trio. So Donald Trump, Scott Bessent, and also William Polt, which is all about the 10-year yield and everything housing related in the United States, and all of them just pressuring, and they just pound Jerome Powell, and that's not going to change until then. And everybody was expecting, like Polta, to say, look, I remain optimistic Jerome Powell will do the right thing as early as next week. Yeah, not really. So let's see how that goes. Even Trump said after meeting Powell, I believe he's going to do the right thing. I believe the chairman is going to do the right thing. So you see that nobody's going to be very happy about that, and they're going to make his life pretty hard as well. And this is the most important thing to understand. We have a true difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy. So on the regime that we have right now, where the Treasury is just going to deliver the most amount of T-bills of U.S. bonds ever, and debt is going to skyrocket anyway. So fiscal spending is the true force of liquidity. And then if you see Jerome Powell, cutting rates would not change anything. Actually, just keeping the rates up or just stimulate the economy and not contract credit. That's a little different than we think. So it's actually the opposite when you are into a fiscal regime. And this is extremely important for us to understand, because as of now, and I'm going to keep track on that, we start to see a reversal on the dollar, on the DXY. So DXY was on a downtrend for a while, and everybody was just all about the dollar is dead trend. But now, I mean, it's still a short-term trend, so nothing too crazy about it, but it's up back to 99. So if it crosses 100, then things start to catch a little more attention, because it's not really on the neutral anymore. So it might start creating some problems, especially outside of the United States, where dollars are lent into existence. You don't have fiscal, you don't have Bessent, right? So you only have your economic activity and your creditworthiness as a creditor, right? Or as a or as a company, as a country, or you're not able to print your own dollars unless they're lent into existence. And this is a very important thing, because this could shift a little bit of that liquidity and get capital coming back to the United States, especially when you also have a true expectation all around the world by 2025 that you see most central banks, the vast majority of central banks, cutting rates, including the United States. So we also have, according to Bloomberg, the expectation of lower interest rates. But as it's not really happening and we are stuck here, it creates the effect as if Jerome Powell had raised interest rates. So it just becomes more and more hawkish because of the rate differentials between Europe, China, Australia, Canada, towards the US. And this may also produce some capital coming to the United States if risk is higher abroad. If there's some kind of perception of risk that increases, then capital flows come back to the United States. And this is where DXY may create problems. And so I would have really a look on that. So not really the case right now, but the more Jerome Powell holds those rates, the more difficult it is for Europe, for example, where they have a sluggish economy. They have to keep cutting, right? Switzerland is already at negative interest rates. Done a chapter about that as well. So this is getting problematic for the other countries. So this is the U.S. exceptionalism in hand. So we discuss a lot of those moves actually in the report. We also discussed the dollar being down and creating that liquidity, and this could be the reversal, as we actually discuss on the report as well. So China is also the big liquidity player along with the United States, but having that problem, having that clash in the United States can create some confusion, some troubles there for liquidity. But let's wait and see. So far, liquidity is just up, and we just expect to be higher and higher based on fiscal spending. And if you want to have access to that report as well, links are on the description below as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the narrative is going to be, because inflation is there. It's not showing any signs of true inflation right now, so it's still at 2%, and the labor market is still solid. However, the main problems here are the questions that were asked to Jerome Powell after the meeting. And you clearly see that he reaffirms Fed's independence despite all political pressure from President Trump and others to cut rates. So he wants to at least show that independence, but we all know there is no such thing as completely independent Fed. That has never been. So it's always a matter of politicizing things and also creating narratives of a control that you don't really have, because right now monetary policy doesn't really change anything. Even if it did what Trump wants, right? What are you trying to stimulate? So we discussed that in our report as well. So this is just a whole theater. We need to get away of that narrative, but unfortunately we need to cover this because it also shifts momentum based on the markets, based on expectations, based on what people want. But I may be happier if we don't see too many swings on the S&P or on Bitcoin price that didn't really move too much after that. That may mean that over time people see that this is just a theater. So let's see what happens. But any opportunities or any downturns into risk on assets, I mean not investment advice for sure, but there are opportunities there for sure, because liquidity and the fundamentals don't change. So let's see. It's going to be very interesting until May 2026, which is when Jerome Powell leaves as a chairman. And until there, it's going to be a lot of volatility for sure. So see you in the next video.